Well, Dad, I learned from our previous episode that I think I'm maybe a little bit passionate about this topic. For me, this is something that I want to make sure that every pastor out there are doing these things to make sure they affair proof their marriage. So I talked a lot last episode. I don't know how much I talked this episode, but I'm excited about this topic because I'm passionate about it. I love it. I love to see marriages thrive, and so
And you didn't mention something, Jess, and maybe it was because of a bit of discomfort, and I'll just mention it briefly. I saw you go through the death of your son who lived
Mm,
1 hour and how your marriage was tested during that time and how you came out on the other side. So
mhm.
that, that's just another story that of course I'm not going to go into details because I don't
Sure,
know all the details, but
sure.
boy, that was a tough time for you.
Yeah, and saying my marriage was tested, I think is actually putting it lightly. It was a tough season. You know, anytime you lose a child, the divorce rate skyrockets, and I understand why. And so my wife and I both fought hard for our marriage. And so yeah, I didn't pick up on that, but you brought it up. Maybe that is why I'm passionate about it, just because I know how important it is to fight for your marriage.
Mhm.
Because oh my goodness, it is so worth it. Well, welcome to the Church Answers podcast. If you don't know who we are, my name is Jess Rayner. I'm here with my dad, Tom Rayner, and we are looking at a topic again that I'm passionate about. I'm excited about. I think it's important. Unfortunately, there's so much out there that wants to try. We have an enemy that absolutely wants to disrupt marriages in our culture that is actually becoming way more sexualized, I think, than we've ever seen before. And
Mhm.
so there are so many things that are trying to destroy marriages, in particular ministries, marriages that are involved in ministries. And I've seen it so much, and I hate it. And I don't want the enemy to win. And so I want to see vibrancy in our marriages. And so we're excited to be talking about this topic. It's our second episode
Yeah.
of this topic. And so we did four before. We're looking at four more for this episode. Dad, you're getting ready to say something, but before you do, let me.
No, no. Before you say the sponsor,
Okay.
let me do this. Um, I stay in touch with Steve Cheney on a periodic basis, usually by text. Sometimes we call.
Mhm.
Sometimes when he calls me though, he calls via video, and so however I'm dressed, I've got to answer him. He said, "Well, gosh, you look ugly." I said, "Well, this is how I always look, Steve." And so we talk a lot. Well, one time he said, "Hey, I'm not going to be talking to you for any time soon." Didn't know what was going on. He said, "I'm taking my wife on an anniversary trip. We're going to." I can't remember all the. I think he was in Italy and maybe some other
Yeah.
places in Europe, and he was saying, "I'm giving her this time because I'm a workaholic and I know I work too much." And he said, "Hey, Rainer, sometimes I talk to you more than I talk to her during the day, and that's not right." And I said, "No,
It's
it's
not
not.
right at all.
It's
Nobody
not
should
right."
do that.
But the thing about it is, he was just giving me a heads up. My
Mhm.
marriage is a priority, and I'm going to put that ahead of everything else, including his work. So now you can talk about Cheney and Associates.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love hearing that one of our partners, the leader of the organization, is living out this episode, this podcast. Steve Cheney over there with Cheney and Associates, they have a heart for the church. They love the church. They love the local church, and they want to see the local church thrive. And they want to see your local church thrive. And one of the areas they help is with your church finances. And so, if you have any of those bookkeeping or accounting needs, go check out Cheney and Associates. Go to cheneyassociates.com/church answers, and just get to know them on their website, and then reach out and give them a call. Just see what they can do. Take a 30 minutes and have a discovery call with them. They know that time is precious. They know stewardship matters, and so they want to help with both. And they will take this off your plate so you can lead your church. Give them a call. See what they can do. Check out cheneyassociates.com/church answers.
And a special welcome to David Hodges,
Yeah.
who is now leading business development with Cheney Associates. As of this podcast, I have not formally been introduced to him, but I look forward to it. It's great to hear about another leader on Cheney's team, and I know that we'll be talking a lot.
Yeah.
Welcome, David.
Yeah. Great team over there. Well, we're looking at the next four. We're looking at a total of 8 ways pastors can affair proof their marriages. So if you missed the previous episode, go check those first 4 out. We're looking at the second 4 different ways, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's what we're be covering today. A total of 8 ways that you can affair proof marriages over 2 episodes. We're going to look at number 5 to start off with. And it's this: Don't have unreasonable expectations of your spouse at your church. Break that one down for us.
We are looking at 4, especially the first 3 of these 4. So that would be 5, 6, and 7 of all 8 of them that are related to the church that you serve.
Mm-hmm.
As a pastor, the church you serve, okay, how can you affair-proof your marriage and your interactions or other issues related to your spouse in terms of what you do at the church? And so this first one, don't have unreasonable expectations of your spouse at church. I think that your mother would likely say that this is where I was one of the strongest. That I scored low on some, high on others, but on this one's probably, she walked into churches where she could play piano. She walked into churches where she could host all kind of meetings and have all kind of events. And she was involved, but she was involved as a church member would normally be, not as some people think, the co-pastor, the spouse. And I put that, if you're watching on YouTube, it's air quotes, the co-pastor is not really a thing. Although, it could be an official title somewhere, but it's not in most churches. And so your spouse needs to be just treated like another good church member and not have unfair expectations. And I shielded her from a lot of those. People would come to me saying, why didn't she do this? Why didn't she do that? And I said, well, why should she? Here's what she's doing as a church member. Why do you have other expectations? Well, she's pastor's wife. You know what? She is. She's not on the payroll. And I would say that to people. And again, it wasn't that many people.
Right.
But I protected your mom. And I just said, look, these are some things that she is not going to do. And when we went other places, like when I was dean of Southern Seminary, when I was president of Lifeway, I did not put the expectations on her that she would be anything other than Nellie Joe, because that's plenty. I mean, Nellie Joe is just Nellie Joe. So that is one of the areas where I think I did well. I'm not going to give myself A's on all areas. But this is one of them where I did.
Well, this is one that I was influenced by 2 other pastors in this particular area. Dad had talked about how you influenced me in the last episode, and when it comes to marriage and ministry. This one, I had 2 pastors influence me. One was at the very, well, I guess my first full-time vocational job. I was up in Hendersonville, Tennessee, with the church planning team, and we got into the question, and during the interview process, I asked the pastor. I said, what are your expectations of my wife? And so this is me not serving as lead pastor, but I was serving on staff. And so I wanted to know what the lead pastor's expectation, because that would set the tone for the whole staff, and it would set the tone for the whole church and how they viewed my spouse. And so I want to know his viewpoint. And I remember his response. He said, I don't expect your wife to do anything beyond what I expect a normal church member to do. And so that was like, nailed it. And so that's how he lived out with his wife. And so that set the culture for the whole staff, and that set the culture for the whole church, that whatever the expectations were for a church member, that's the only thing he expected of her. So that was the first one. The second one was Mike Glenn.
I remember Mike Glenn, good friend,
Brentwood Baptist. And I don't remember how I heard this. I'm pretty sure I heard it straight from his mouth. The way my memory serves, but maybe I didn't. The permission, I think it was, because I think it was me and my wife were both meeting with him at one point. We were talking about how his wife, because Brentwood, very, very large church, how his wife handles these requests and these comments and these questions when she was walking the halls. And someone asked, well, what do you do in the church? Her response was, I take care of your pastor. And so it wasn't that I don't do anything. It was like, my job's to take care of him so he can go in effectively. And so again, it's those culture setting ways that you can respond to that. And that's so important is you have to have that as if you're in ministry for your spouse,
right?
Make sure, and then just talk about it. My wife will ask me from time to time, is there anything else you want me doing at the church? I said, no, you do whatever you feel called to do. And interesting enough, she's jumped in with our student ministry of all places recently.
Really?
She's on the leadership team of our student ministry. She's not leading the student ministry. She doesn't want that. but she actually is a part of a team of 5 that are leading our student ministry, and so she loves it. I'm like, okay, I didn't see that one coming, but that was not my request. That was not my initiative. That was hers, and it makes it that much more effective because she's serving in a place she has fun. She enjoys it. She's kind of the event person. I guess not kind of. She's the event person. She plans all the events for our student ministry, and she loves it.
Well, you have another dynamic. You have a wife, 3 children,
Mm-hmm.
a mom, and a dad in your church.
Yes, we do. There's a strong family dynamic. But the point being is I don't have any expectations of her beyond a normal church member. I want her to serve in whatever capacity she wants to, in any role, just to serve.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, as simple as being on the welcome team. I want her to give, and she does. I want her to attend worship, and I want her to share Christ. That's it, and that's the only expectation. So communicating that as a husband and wife is really, really important. The second one, our 6 overall, but the second one we're looking at for this episode has to do with the communication side. Again, we're talking about you and your spouse communicating, but this is about what happens in the life of the church and how much you communicate to your spouse. So our sixth lesson that pastors have learned or pastors implement on how to fair-proof their marriage is to discern and discuss how much your spouse wants to hear about church matters.
All right, let me ask you this. Scale of 1 to 10, I want to hear everything. Don't take anything out. 1, I hardly ever want to hear anything unless it's absolutely necessary. Where's Rachel?
So I don't think I could give an average. She's probably like a 4 to 5.
Okay.
Certain things, she's a 10. Other things, she's a 1, she's a 2. So we have figured out situationally
that's fair
what she wants to hear about. And there's some things situationally she wants to hear about all of it. And then some things she's like, don't even let me know anything about that.
That's fair. That's fair. Where would you put your mom? What would your guess be? Especially when I was a pastor.
2?
8.
Oh, she wanted to know.
She wanted to know. She's tough. She's tough. And she would rather hear something ahead of time than to be surprised by it. Now, general negativity, she don't want to hear about it. Hey, right. If somebody's just whining or complaining, but issues, not confidential issues. She didn't say, tell me this confidential information about someone.
Sure.
But she wanted to be informed because she didn't want to be caught off guard. And again, it's because she handles it well. And except for just general negativity and whining, she said, hey, let me know. I want to know what's going on. Okay. Still does today. That surprised you, I could tell.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that at all. See, my wife loves to be able to say, I don't know. And to say it honestly. And so that's something that she says, I'm going to trust you to tell me what you think I need to know. And so she has put the responsibility on me about what things to communicate to her. Now, when it comes to, more logistical things, more just happenings in the church, events, things that are going on, she wants to know all of it. Like, she wants to know all the ins and outs of details of events, of all that stuff. She wants granular level of that. But when it comes to people, she's on the lower end of the spectrum with that one. So there you brought up a good question here. What about when a pastor receives confidential information? How did you handle it as a pastor?
I would say, I've been asked to keep this confidential. Are you okay with that? And that's how. Never did she say, I'm your wife, tell me.
Right.
She said
that's tough because you're not. I mean, marriages typically don't need to keep secrets, but it's how do you handle that confidential information?
I would always say, if this in any way involved me personally or involved you at all, I would let you know.
Yeah, that's good.
But otherwise, if they say, I want to keep it confidential, I can say this now because it became public. We at I'm not going to even say the church now, but back in the days when AIDS was just coming on to the knowledge scene, and HIV was hardly known as an acronym. It was the disease of death. Sure. I mean, it was just the disease of death. And we had one of the first cases in my church.
Hmm.
And I actually went to visit this man in what felt like a hazmat suit, just to walk in. And she wanted to know details about exposure.
Hmm.
I don't know if she was worried about me, but I know she had 3 sons that she was worried about. And it was, go back to the early days of COVID when we didn't know if we touched a grocery bag if we were going to die or not.
Yeah.
You remember how that was?
Yes, I've not forgotten.
So this was even more so because it was such a vocal dreaded disease. It was just something that just came onto the scene with all kinds of drama. And so she just wanted to know she didn't want to know the details about how did it happen. Of course,
Sure.
you could probably guess on that, but she did want to know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just important just having that open-ended discussion. And again, this is in terms of affair proofing your marriage. It's that idea of you're not keeping things. And so how do you keep an open line of communication? But in ministry, there's confidential things that come up. And so sometimes my wife will know of something, but she won't know the details of something. And she'll say, "Hey, I heard something about this." And she goes, I said, "Yeah." And I'll say, I'm not at liberty to say. And she respects that. So we've had those conversations up front to where it doesn't feel like I'm keeping something from her. She just knows that people sometimes trust me with information and I just can't share it. And she's okay with that, and so she understands it. And so sometimes she catches something, just through the whispers, but nothing direct. And so that's yeah, that's important too. I mean, she had, like we mentioned in the last episode, she has access to my calendar. She knows who I'm meeting with, when I'm meeting with, and sometimes she'll say, "Hey, what was that meeting about?" And so it's like we have come up with these levels of like what I can tell and then too. There's a lot of things she doesn't want to know. It's
And
funny.
she trusts you too, though.
She
There's a
does.
big trust factor.
There's a trust factor. And two, there's times when we've had the conversation because she goes, "I don't want to know about these things." Sometimes she'll start prying and she'll ask more questions. "Hey, do you remember when you told me like you don't want me to tell you certain things?" She goes, like, "Yeah." I said, "This is one of those instances." She's like, "Okay, never mind. Like I'm good." So it's having that trust factor, that open communication factor, and understanding how that happens in ministry. So working through that, really, really important, as a part of your marriage in particular. Well, I'll take a quick breather here for a second.
Run away. Run.
Well, I guess taking a breather is not good when we're talking about running. We're gonna
Yeah, that can make your breath go away. Take
yeah
my
yeah.
breath away.
We want to thank one of our sponsors, Upward, and we're talking about Upward running. If that makes sense of why you're figuring out why my dad is singing about running, we want to thank Upward Sports, Upward Running. Upward.org/run coach is where you need to go if you are at your computer or you're on your phone. Keep this podcast going, but go to upward.org/run coach. And so while you're listening to this, you can go check out what Upward is doing. They are having they're doing 5K challenges. They will help you develop an outreach ministry based off running for adults. They have it all ready to go. They have all the tools. They have everything they need. They just need someone in your church. They have apps. They have all the stuff. They just need one person in your church to reach out to them and say, "How do I get this going?" And they will take care of the rest.
It's amazing turnkey. Some requires a little more on the church's part, but this is an easy entree for churches.
Yeah.
Really easy entree. We're going to do this sport. We're going to connect with the community this way.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the number of people you will get to know about. Did you know I'm learning names of people in our church, Jess, that I did not know, that I'm learning things about them that I did not know? I mean, it's happening so rapidly. It's hard to keep up with. I was telling your mom about nothing confidential, but about someone I was talking to. How do you know this? How do you know this? How do you know this? Because she knows me, and I'm not going to naturally go up and start talking to someone. Well, I'm out in the parking lot,
Mm-hmm.
and they're coming up to me, and they're talking to me, and I'm hearing things from them, and I'm learning. You get someone outside in that kind of scenario,
Mm-hmm.
the guards are let down, and man, running a big event like a 5K where you could probably have hundreds, maybe even 1,000 or so people. That's where you start connecting with the community.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're looking to connect with the community, you're looking to reach the community, go check out upward.org/run coach. That's RUNCOACH, Run Coach, and go see what they can do for you. Well, now we can take a breather after talking about running, and we can get
Yes.
into our last two. This is, again, over the 2 episodes, we've been looking at 8 different ways that pastors can affair-proof their marriage. We just finished our 6th one, and now we're on to our 7th one. I like this one. Defend your spouse.
I had to do that. No, I didn't have to. I did that one time aggressively, at great risk. And I'm not going to say any more. I'll
Sure.
wait till we get off air. But I did so at great risk.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I loved it. I absolutely loved it because I felt total freedom to do so.
Yeah.
But
it's so important because unfortunately, criticism of the pastor and the pastor's family does happen. It happens with the kids and it happens with the wife. And then sometimes it happens of the pastor and the wife has to hear it. Or sometimes even worse, people will criticize the pastor to the kids. That's
a low.
That's
a
low.
low. Yeah.
But here's the reality is as a pastor, your job is to defend your spouse. Remember, this goes back to the very beginning of what we talked about. Your
first line of
family is
ministry.
your first ministry.
Yes.
And so you have to protect that first ministry. You have to care for that first ministry. The temptation is there because if maybe it's someone of influence in the church and you're afraid of what the potential ramifications are. Let me just remind you, the potential ramifications that not defending your spouse can have on your marriage is far greater than anything that can happen in the church and ministry.
It's beyond the relationship of the marriage. It's a spiritual risk as well when you start not defending your spouse.
Yeah. And so there's ways you can do this. I mean, sometimes you got to be very direct. Sometimes you can say you're wrong. Don't say that about my wife. Sometimes you can do it more tactful way, depending on what it is. If it's a little bit of slight, you can say, no, actually, my wife, my spouse does do this. My spouse does think this. And so you have to protect your family, in particular, protect your wife. And I think, depending on the level of relationship you have of someone who's criticizing, that's going to dictate how you respond to that. And so this goes back to trust. This goes back to the long term. I forgot who I was talking to recently. There was a long-term pastor who was talking to, I don't remember the details, but I remember what was said. It was a long-term pastor who was talking to a bunch of brand new pastors. And his simple response was, they're all going to leave. That was the teaching. They're all going to leave. And he was making a point of like church life, people come and people go. But your spouse, they're there. Yep. They're staying. Don't make the short-term decision of not defending your spouse. Look at the long-term decision. Defend your spouse. We got our 8th and final one we want to look at now. This one, I hope you do. And I hope you do it at least daily. Converse with your spouse. Talk with them.
Which in many cases, tell them what happened during the day so they'll feel knowledgeable and included as well. But sometimes just listen. Just listen.
That's a good point. Conversing obviously can often think you're talking. But when you're having a conversation with someone, you have to listen. Find out what works. My wife and I, we do frequent check-ins throughout the day. It's a quick text message. It's a 5-minute phone call, just quick little check-ins. Some they know they just don't talk during the day. And so, but you have to make sure you're intentional when you get home to have those conversations. And so find that ongoing communication.
It took me about 30 years to learn one of them. Seriously, about 30 years. During a conversation, maintain eye contact with her.
Oh, yeah. Especially with phones now. Oh, it's so easy just to be looking at your phone and not looking at your spouse. I like, there's always one phone call I make. It's the phone call right before I come home.
Yeah.
And I do it to gauge the temperature of the house. Not the actual, air temperature. Yeah. It's the emotional temperature of the house. And I do it just because I want to be prepared. When I walk in the door, I want to be, the best husband, the best father I can do. And I kind of want to know the the climate of what's happening in the house. But other times too, it's important. Sometimes if I have a really bad day, I'll text my wife ahead of time and I'll say, hey, just let you know, I'm walking in with this. And so anytime you can have these ongoing conversations really helps as you're coming back together in person. It can really affect the rest of the evening in a positive way on your marriage. So
That's
that
good.
conversation.
That's good. I should have done that.
Maybe there's a little bit of selfishness. Like I don't have a long drive. I'm pretty close to where my church is.
You leave and you're there.
Pretty much. And so I know there's a lot of dads and husbands that they have what they call driveway time, that they'll actually sit in the driveway for about 4 or 5 minutes when they pull in, just to gather themselves and just you don't want to go in and just hit the couch. You want to go in ready to go. But having that ongoing conversation and understanding what's happening, it's really important. So, well, we've looked at over these past 2 episodes 8 ways that pastors can affair-proof their marriages. I hope this has been helpful. I hope that you've listened to all 8 of them, and maybe there's 1 or 2 things you're going to begin to implement in your marriage. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. Fight for your marriage. It is your family's your first ministry, and make sure you're treating it as that way. Well, before we wrap up, I do want to thank Chaney Associates one more time.
For sure. Love those guys.
They continue to do great work with churches and finances. They want you to lead your church, and so they're going to handle the numbers. They're going to handle the finances. They have decades of experience serving churches. They know how to speak church language. They're not some foreign entity. They are local. They are here. They get it. They understand it. They're going to provide the financial insights you need in order for you to make the most effective ministry decisions. Real-time information. It's fast. It's accurate. It's reliable. Go check out Chaney Associates. Go to ChaneyAssociates.com/church answers and just go learn about them and what they can do for your church. You'll never regret having at least 1 conversation with them to see what they could potentially do.
Yeah, let them do the work of all the money, finance, and accounting so you can do the work of ministry.
That's right. Well, Dad, we've wrapped up. This is the final part of 2 episodes. We've been talking about affair-proofing your marriage, particularly for pastors. Having been married 47 years, having been in ministry for so many years, is there one just kind of overarching summary, a synopsis that you would say, do this? Anything that for you that you would help a pastor listening to this kind of final piece what they should do for their marriage?
I listed these 8 in the content because I've heard them repeatedly. I intentionally went to pastors to ask. I was not surprised at the list that we came from on that. But here's my final word to it. Review something like this on an ongoing basis. How am I doing praying with my spouse? How am I doing praying for my spouse? How have I defended? What this has done for me, people sometimes think that you and I are dispensing information, but the realization of it is sometimes our information is directed right at us.
Right.
And what this has done for me is given me some reminders of, hey, you're strong in this area. And I spoke up quickly about not having unreasonable expectations because I was good at that. I didn't speak up quite as quickly in other areas because I'm thinking through them. And what I got out of all this was not one, but a reminder to keep things like this before me at all times and see where I might be weak. That's mine.
Intentionality. Be intentional about your marriage.
Yep.
Well, that's great advice. Thank you, Dad. And thank you for all you listeners out there who've joined us on this episode and hopefully the episode before this. Again, we're here at Church Answers. We're asking the questions. We're also giving the answers, and we do our best. It's really to help you and to see you thrive in your ministry. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for being a part of the Church Answers podcast. We look forward to seeing you at the next episode.